Hey everybody, it's time to talk about week 9 of the Foster to Adopt class. This is the third time I'm making this because I just keep rambling. So I'm going to try to make this quick, sweet, and short. So basically we went to week 9. That was our last actual class. Class that was taught or whatever. The last class, which is week 10, is just like a question and answer session, which I'm kind of looking forward to because I think more of the practical questions will be answered. And that's something they don't really go over a lot. The MAP classes are there to just kind of teach you. They don't answer a lot of the, other questions I've talked about throughout the series of these videos. Every week you have some kind of homework that's due. And most of the time it's a strengths and needs worksheet where, based on what was gone over in class that time, you talk about what your strengths and needs are based on the 12 skills for successful fostering and adoption. And here they are, in case you're curious. And I'll leave it up just for a second here. And so this week it's a little bit different because it's the last week and you're supposed to come all together and let them know, where you're at. So it looks a little bit different because before it was a grid that we each basically kind of filled out, and this is just like a worksheet that kind of ties it all up and says, okay, now you've learned what you've learned. What do you want to do from here? And so we have a lot to work on this week in regards to this. Paul and I need to sit down and talk about exactly what we think we can handle, and I'll get into exactly what it asks in a minute. What I was kind of irritated with on Thursday, and we had like a huge conversation on the way home about this, is the fact that I had asked a question about adoption only, and I forget even what the question was, but it was, geared toward the fact that I was saying, we kind of have leaned that we're not going to foster, we're going to do adoption only. And one of the, I don't know what she is. She's like, I guess like a social worker or something, said, no, you don't want to do that. You want to do foster to adopt. No, I don't. And I just, if you looked at this, the very first thing on this list is know your family, and I know what's best for us. Now, they don't know that I'm pregnant yet. Not that we've been trying to hide it from them or anything like that, but because I don't feel that it's something I need to tell them just yet, because I don't feel like, because there's a group of people that teach the class, and it's like 4 or 5 people each week. Different people are in there sometimes, and I just don't feel like I need to tell them all. The next step after we're done with the class is that we get assigned one person that's like our go-to person. It's our home finder. I think that that's the person that we're going to tell. As soon as we find out who that is, we're going to tell them. That way they can share it with everybody else if they want, but we're not telling 50 different people, and that way if something happens, we're not dealing with that. So, I don't know, maybe they'll have a problem with the fact that I'm pregnant. I don't really know. But, we're going to tell them we're not trying to hide anything or anything like that. It's just a matter of, I wanted to wait a few more weeks, and it just turns out the class is ending. So, but getting back to what I was saying, see, I go on and ramble, I'm sorry. But I was irritated by the fact that, they preach, know your family, know what you can handle, because that's what's best for the child. It's not best that you claim you can handle something happens, and that child has to be moved. So, based on our circumstances, I don't feel comfortable. Our child has to come first at this point, our biological baby. Not that, I don't want to make it seem like our biological baby is more important than our adopted kids. I don't want to make that seem that at all. But what I'm saying is, because I know in, a few months I'm going to have a child here, I have to think of that child first, because that child is real. That child is, an actual person, is, making in the makings of, where all the other kids are like at this point just in theory, because they don't actually exist yet. If, we had already gotten done with the class and, we had a foster kid in here, I would absolutely take that into consideration. I wouldn't just be like, okay, I'm having my own biological child, I no longer want you. That's not at all what I'm saying. But I'm saying because, where I'm pregnant, we have to absolutely put that first. And we have to think of our child. And I don't think it's in our child's best interest to have a foster kid in our house that we have to deal with some of the things that come with fostering. Part of that is the the family that, obviously kids that are put into care, their families are not happy about it. And for the most part, and they've just as much said this, for the most part, their families are uncooperative. And you're supposed to, as a foster parent, the primary goal is always to reunite that child with the family. And then if that can't happen, then something else can happen, like adoption. But, you're really supposed to push that relationship with the parent. And I just can't subject my own child to that. Even if we had adoptive kids already, I wouldn't want to subject them to that, because I have a hard enough time dealing with my husband's family, and I don't mean that in a rude way, but just like the things that they have done and the type of people that some of them are and the moral guidance that they have, I'm going to have a hard enough time explaining that to my child. I just don't feel like I need to put that kind of negative energy in my child's life. I don't know if you understand or not, but that's where we're at. And that's how we feel. And that's, we're both very much on the same page as that. If we hadn't had custody of my husband's nephew, I might feel completely different, but I know what it was like to deal with his sister, and I know what kind of elements that got brought into our life. We dealt with things that I've never had to deal with before, and I just don't want to push that on my child. I don't want to do that. So, like I said, at some point we might feel differently, but what we want is to have a permanent member of our family, someone that we get attached to, and my baby gets attached to, and they know is their older brother or sister. And, they're not going to go away, that they're going to be there. So, we want to do adoption, and I don't see a problem with that. So, that's where we're headed with this. And the way we fill out this paper is all going to be based on adoption. That's where we've been for a few weeks now. And, I don't know. I hope they don't have a problem with it. I don't know what else to say. We're not going to be pushed into doing something we don't want to do. And I really hope it doesn't come down to the fact that I just get so frustrated that we don't end up doing anything, because there's kids out there that want homes, that are freed for adoption, that deserve to be in a forever home. And I, don't want to be turned off to the entire situation, especially because in an ideal world, I would love to adopt 3 kids. Either it be a sibling group or 3 separate individuals. I would absolutely love to have 1 biological child and 3 adopted kids. So I really don't want to be turned off to the process, because I want to grow our family so bad, and I want to do it this way. Kids that really need it. So with that being said, I want to just go over the worksheet so you guys can kind of know what to expect. I think maybe if you know what to expect going into it, it makes it easier. You start to get your mindset and start to think about different things. Because I think it is important to be honest with yourself. There's things you can't handle. There's things you can't handle. It's that simple. So the very first question asks you, do you want to be a foster parent? Do you want to be an adoptive parent? Do you want to foster to adopt? Or you can be a child and family advocate. A lot of times people don't know, and we didn't know until we went through the class, that when you have foster kids, you can't just have anybody watch them. It has to be somebody that's been certified, fingerprinted, background checked, all that stuff. So you can just be like a relief for somebody else, like a family that maybe is going on vacation or something and the birth parents won't let them go, or they're going on like a couple's weekend or something. We could just be, that couple that only gets foster kids like in that situation. But we are going to choose to be an adoptive family, and then it asks you how you know that that's the right choice for your family. And then it talks about just basically what after everything that was been discussed in the course, what your strengths are, what your needs are, what has changed since meeting 1, maybe, your views on different things. It talks about special needs. A lot of kids that come into foster care have special needs, whether it be like physical, they may have asthma, they may have diabetes, they may have any other kind of thing, or a lot of kids have like learning disabilities, or need some kind of special, like maybe speech therapy, or have been sexually abused. A lot of kids come that need a lot of special needs. So it talks about what needs we think we are best to handle, what needs or behaviors are we least able to handle. And then question 5 is a list of, question 5 and 6. Sorry, did I just put that in front of the camera? Sorry. Our list of things that you have to check. You could either parent without help, you could parent with help, or could not parent. And I'll just read through them. First one is child who masturbates, teenager who is sexually active, child whose mother was or is involved in prostitution, child of any age who has been sexually abused, child who talks to you about sex, child who talks to your children about sex, other behaviors you may want to mention. Let's see, and then it talks about, question 6 is about special needs. And again, it asks the same format, what you could parent, what you can't, and what you think you could parent with help. So child who wets the bed, child who is HIV positive, child who is another race than your family, child who has a history of running away, child who has been involved with juvenile courts or as an offender, child who has used drugs or alcohol, child who is mentally retarded, child who must use a wheelchair, child who is blind, child who expresses interest in homosexual relationships. There's been a little bit of focus on that in the classes, in different ways to handle things like that, which I'm happy. I mean, in this day and age, I'm glad that, that's something that is brought to the forefront, and they give you, ways, especially if it's not something that you're used to dealing with on a daily basis. I think that it's really great that they, put so much focus on that. A child who is transgender, a child who has a terminal illness, or any other special needs that you can specify. And then question 7, if you have decided you can be a foster or adoptive parent, imagine that the caseworker is at your door. They've had us answer this question before. With a child you are planning to foster or adopt, please describe the child, for example, physical appearance, family background, personality, and school ability. That's kind of a different question. We talked a little bit about that. I don't really know what we're going to write for that. I mean, I don't know. We'll have to talk about it. You and your family, the question 8, you and your family have contributed much time and energy to this program. What kept you going, involved, and committed? And question 9, if you decided you can be a foster or adoptive family, what will you need to keep you going, involved, and committed? And that is the good thing about adopting this way. There's a lot of programs and a lot of people that can help you. If you run into any problems at all, or a child ends up, because a lot of times, especially with young kids, let's say we get a 3-year-old and we don't realize that they have learning disabilities until they start school at 5 years old. You have a lot of support, which is always nice. And then the last question, it says, as a result of this program, are there ways you think you might be able to help children who have been abused, neglected, or emotionally maltreated? And here again is where, even if you go through the program and decide, okay, fostering is just not right for me, you can do so many other things. You can be a mentor. You can provide respite care, which is like babysitting basically for someone else. Provide clerical support, be a recruiter, serve as a CASA, be a big brother, big sister, provide transportation, be a political advocate, raise funds, volunteer for group care, provide foster care, or adopt in the future, and anything other than that. Then part of that is also, if you've decided that now is not the time to foster or adopt, would you like to keep information about you? Which obviously that doesn't apply to us because we've decided we're going to do that. So that's basically it. If I don't know if I'll do a class 10, depending on what happens, because I think it's going to be more specific to my area, but because every agency is going to be different. But if anything comes up that I think is worthwhile, I will do another video. Please, anyone, so this is pretty much it for the foster adoption classes, especially because I've spoke a little bit about how, the entire system overall, how I feel about it. So if you guys have any questions, please ask, because I really don't know what other videos I can do on this topic until we get to the home study and things like that. At which point, when we start having our meetings, I'll continue to do videos. But that's several months away, so let me know, alright? I hope you all have a great week. Talk to you soon. Bye.